Let's start with a breaking update. As far as the Red Fort blast case is concerned, Times now has access to exclusive details of the probe in the 10/11 blast case. In the latest, sources have told Times now that 10/11 blast accused Dr Umar Nabi liked Burhan Wani. Remember, he was killed by the security forces in 2016 and he was following the ideology of Ghazwat-ul-Hind, which was founded by Zakir Musa and wanted to be his successor. As far as what he really wanted to be, let me go across to my colleague Sahil. Suhail has been tracking all the details. Now we're learning, Sahil, that in fact he wanted to become the successor of Zakir Musa and he was really liking Burhan Wani, who was killed by the security forces in 2016. Tell us more about this.
Well, this, as per the sources, investigators have found that Dr Umar was following the legacy of Zakir Musa. Zakir Musa is the same terrorist who had founded Ansarul Ghazwatul Hind, an affiliate of Al-Qaeda in Jammu and Kashmir, and threatened to behead separatist leaders in Kashmir. So who is Zakir Musa? Zakir Musa is close, in fact, was close aide of Burhan Wani. Both were, in fact, operating in Tral area of South Kashmir, and both had differences with Lashkar-e-Taiba and, in fact, Hizbul Mujahideen or funding issues. And then, after the death of Burhan Wani in 2016, Zakir Musa moved ahead to float this Ansarul Ghazwatul Hind. And now the investigators have found that Dr. Umar was following basically the legacy of Zakir Musa and his ideology when it comes to, in fact, executing plans, including suicide bombing. Remember, Al-Qaeda and its affiliates believe in suicide bombing, and this is what the Dr. Umar in his, in fact, video statement has also justified. Now the investigators are also, in fact, picking up links and his visit to Kashmir. They have also come to know that in the third week of October this year, in fact, Dr. Umar rushed to Kashmir for a meeting that has, in fact, was necessitated after the group members disagreed on execution of plans. We all already know that Dr. Umar was grooming Jasir Bilal Wani of South Kashmir's Kazigund as suicide bomber, but he, at the end of it, had basically pulled out, saying that suicide was haram. So there was this difference that has, in fact, created a friction in the group. To iron out differences, this Dr. Umar rushed to Kashmir in the third week of October and for a meeting and to iron out differences. Remember, Dr. Adil Rathar, who is accused in this case and is arrested by the NIA, got married on 4th and 5th of October. It's interesting that Umar did not turn to attend his wedding ceremony, but instead on third week of October, he rushed to Kashmir and, in fact, to iron out differences between the group members. And now another central contender of whole of this terror conspiracy is Maulvi Irfan Wage. Maulvi Irfan Wage is someone who is known to have worked terror outfits like Jaish-e-Mohammed, but then he has, in fact, sided with Ansarul Ghazwatul Hind ideology, and he is the one who is believed to have connected these doctors for this, in fact, larger terror conspiracy.
Absolutely. Sahil's shown with us. In fact, we told you about Dr. Umar Nabi, the mastermind and, in fact, the suicide bomber in this case. Now let's tell you about Maulvi Irfan Wage, who's a preacher and, in fact, the mastermind behind the entire white-collar terror network. He'd initially worked for Jaish-e-Terror outfit but shifted to Ghazwat-ul-Hind after 2019. He was in touch with the active terrorists there, including Muzammil Mansoor of Shopia, who was killed in 2022. Irfan had also come in contact with other overground workers there detained by the police, including Mustaq Ahmed of Chandpora in Srinagar. However, Dr. Adil Rathar, remember, he's one of the co-conspirators in the case. Muzammil Shakil Ghani and Jasir Bilal Wani were inclined towards Jaish. It is for that reason that Jasir, who was being groomed as a suicide bomber, declined, stated that death by suicide is a sin. Now, sources have told Times now that this led to a friction in the group, which Maulvi Irfan was trying to settle. So, for more on this, let me go across to my colleague Bhavtosh, who has more details on this. Bhavtosh, tell us more about this preacher, Maulvi Irfan, and how he was, in fact, in a way, grooming this entire group. Bhavtosh, you're muted. Please unmute yourself. All right, we'll try and fix that line with my colleague Bhaktosh, who has got us these details. But this person, Maulvi Irfan, is also under the scanner. As we told you, he's one of the preachers and one of the masterminds in the white-collar network that has now emerged. And in fact, sources have told Times Now that there was friction between the group as far as the co-conspirators are concerned, and that includes Dr. Adil Muzammil and another person who has been arrested by the NIA. And sources have told Times Now that this led to a friction in the group, which in fact Maulvi, that you can see on the screen, was trying to iron out. We're learning that they were in fact inclined towards Jaish. It is for that reason that Zakir, who's one of the co-conspirator who was being groomed as a suicide bomber, declined, stating that death by suicide is a sin. For more on this, let me go across to my colleague Sahil Suhail, who's tracking all the details from Jammu and Kashmir. Sahil, tell us about this Maulvi who is in question, Maulvi Irfan Wage. He's one of the preachers, the mastermind.
Well, as the investigation, in fact, proceeds on each day, this Maulvi Irfan is trying to be, in fact, turning out to be a central character in this larger terror conspiracy. Now this Maulvi Irfan, who is a resident of South Kashmir Shopian district, was working as a preacher in Naugam area of Srinagar from last many years. Now, sources telling us that he was initially inclined towards Jaish and, in fact, had worked for the Jaish. But then, in fact, after 2019, he had started, in fact, inclining or, in fact, favoring the Ansarul Ghazwatul Hind terror module. And terrorists were active at that point in time in Kashmir. So there was one terrorist who was identified as Muzammil Manzoor Tantri. He was a resident of South Kashmir's Shopaya district, and it's in fact being said by the sources that he was in touch with Maulvi Irfan. Maulvi Irfan had also come in touch with some overground workers of, in fact, this Ansarul Ghazwatul Hind. But Jammu and Kashmir police had also busted that group, and in fact all of them were in fact taken into custody. When this Maulvi Irfan is in fact was arrested, was taken into custody, from his mobile records, from his in fact call details, these things are coming out that he was in touch with these in fact members of Ansarul Ghazwatul Hind. But yes, one thing has to be noted that Ansarul Ghazwatul Hind group was completely wiped out in Kashmir, with its active cadre eliminated and in fact overground workers detained. But somehow this Maulvi Irfan was there, and in fact there were in fact these members of white-collar terrorist group, including doctors, who have developed tendencies towards Ansarul Ghazwatul Hind, and they were on this mission to execute plans, including conducting blastings and suicide blastings. So Irfan was a central character in this, in fact, larger terror conspiracy, bringing the cadre or people, in fact, favoring Jaish and Ansarul Ghazwatul Hind together. This is, in fact, the primary task that Irfan had executed, and in fact had connected doctors with each other, so for a larger terror conspiracy. So in this context, what sources at least are telling us that he is the central character.
Right.
He is the main, in fact, conspirator in this larger terror conspiracy, with Dr. Umar executing the plan, and in fact Dr. Muzammil, Adil and other doctors helping him in his plans. But Dr. Irfan is somewhere on scanner, and his further investigation will actively unreveal and in fact expose all of the larger terror conspiracy.
Absolutely. Stay on with us, Sahil. I'm also joined by Bhaktosh for more on this. Bhaktosh, tell us about Maulvi Irfan, who was in a way trying to settle the differences. We're learning that there was also difference on the ideology. There was Umar, who followed the ISIS ideology, and others who followed the Al-Qaeda ideology. So take us through those details.
In 2023, Maulvi Irfan brought a patient with him to the hospital where Dr. Muzammil was working, and it was at that point of time that Muzammil first met the Maulvi Wage, and subsequently he was the one who radicalized him. And since Muzammil knew everyone, he in fact roped in others. Now, the main character as far as this entire terror module is concerned is Okasha. Okasha was the one who told them that they should go to Turkey. In Turkey, they met a Syrian terror operative. The Syrian terror operative radicalized most of them, but the person who got the maximum influence was Omar. Now, Omar wanted to go to Afghanistan and fight in the war, but he was told that there is a bigger plan for him and he should go back to India. Now, as soon as he went to India in 2023, he left his job in Srinagar and then he started working in Faridabad in Al-Falah. And as soon as he went to work in Al-Falah, he in fact wanted to follow the ideology of ISIS and Daesh, in which he wanted to target or at least carry out suicide bombing. The problem with him was that he could not find many who could participate as a suicide bomber, and ultimately he became the suicide bomber. Even the press statement that was issued by Jammu and Kashmir Police on 10th of November, it was very clear that the module that they mentioned, the word they used was Jaish-e-Mohammed and also Ansarul Ghazwa-e-Hind. So some members followed the ideology of Jaish-e-Mohammed and other members followed the ideology of Ansarul Ghazwa-e-Hind.
Right.
And the probe mentions that different members of this module were following different ideology. As far as Umar is concerned, he was following the ideology of ISIS and Daesh, and it is correct as what Sohail said, that he was heavily influenced by Burhan Wani, and other members as far as this module are concerned were following the ideology of Daesh. But the main idea as far as Umar was concerned, he wanted to carry out suicide bombing. Whether that plan followed or not is something that investigators are still trying to probe.
All right, so there was some sort of friction as far as the plan for suicide bombing is concerned. Stay on with us, Bhavtosh. We have another breaking update coming in. In the third week of October, we're learning Dr. Umar Nabi rushed to Kashmir to iron out differences with the group members. Sources have told Times Now that Dr. Umar did not attend the marriage ceremony of Dr. Adil Rater, who's one of the co-conspirators in this case. He got married on 4th of October, but in fact, the main accused in this case, Dr. Umar, did not attend the wedding, but in fact, rushed to Kashmir on the third week of October to iron out the differences between the group members over the style of execution, including the suicide bombing. Coming to you, Bhavtosh, once again, there was some sort of friction. In fact, let me go across to my colleague Sahil Suhail for more on this. Sahil, tell us about the friction as far as the co-conspirators are concerned. There was some sort of divided opinion over the style of execution. There's one person, Jasir, who has been arrested by NIA. He said that suicide bombing is a sin. Others did not agree with that style.
Yes, exactly. Jammu and Kashmir Police in its initial statement has made it very clear that it was a Jaish and Ansarul Ghazwatul Hind terror module that they had busted. Ansarul Ghazwatul Hind is an affiliate of Al-Qaeda that was founded by Zakir Musa. And the friction that we are reporting, in fact, as per sources, was over the execution of terror plans. The execution of terror plans and the style adopted by Ansarul Ghazwatul Hind or Al-Qaeda is suicide bombing, while as the cadre or people who were in fact inclined towards Jaish were not in fact agreeing on that. So what in fact, as per sources, the investigators have found that the conspirators like Jasir Wani, who in fact was being groomed as the suicide bomber, or Dr. Muzammil Rathir or Dr. Adil, they were not agreeing on this point of suicide bombing, while as the Dr. Umar was in fact adamant on this. So to in fact iron out these differences, Dr. Umar, who had skipped the Dr. Adil's wedding ceremony in Kashmir, which happened on 4th or 5th of October. But this Dr. Umar rushed to Kashmir on 3rd week of October. This is what sources have told us, that he rushed to Kashmir, and in fact this meeting was organized, and somehow in fact reconciliation sort of compromise was done there. Whether the all members agreed on suicide bombing at that point in time, or in fact Dr. Umar told them that he's dropping the idea of suicide bombing, it's not clear. It's still a subject of investigation, and in fact the questioning of all the conspirators and accused is taking place. But one thing is very clear and confirmed: Dr. Umar in fact rushed to Kashmir on 3rd week of October to iron out these differences that had arisen because of the execution of plans in the group.
Absolutely. As the probe widens in this case, the focus is also on the division and differences between the co-conspirators in this case over the style of execution, including that of suicide bombing. Thank you so much, Sahil Suhail, for bringing us that detail. And now shifting our focus